Let's jump right into this explainer and unlock the exact blueprint the examiners used for question 13 of the November 2023 higher tier math paper. We're going to look strictly at the source material, the official Edexcel Paper 2 and its corresponding mark scheme, to demonstrate the precise workings required to totally ace this specific problem. It's a classic proof, but the implicit challenge here is translating our mathematical steps so they perfectly match what the mark scheme is looking for, guaranteeing us all 3 available marks. We'll cover this in 5 steps: the question 13 challenge, earning the first method mark, the subtraction method mark, completing the algebra, and finally, acceptable answers and traps. Section 1, the question 13 challenge. The ultimate goal here is to construct a clear algebraic proof that ends perfectly with the fraction 241 over 3,330. The paper allocates exactly 3 marks for this proof, meaning we literally have 3 distinct hurdles to clear in our working out. Section 2, earning that first method mark. You know, the mark scheme actually accepts multiple valid starting points. You're allowed to use an equation like 10x or 10,000x to represent the repeating decimal pattern. The examiner doesn't lock you into a single rigid path. Rather, they just want to see that you understand how to multiply the recurring decimal by powers of 10. In fact, let's list all the possible answers given in the mark scheme for this very first step. Writing down any of these correct multiples of x safely secures that initial mathematical mark. You can write 10x equals 0.723723 recurring, or 100x equals 7.237237 recurring, or 1000x equals 72.372372 recurring, or 10,000x equals 723.723723 recurring. Any single one of those expressions puts you on the board. Section 3, the subtraction method mark. I want to translate this exact phrasing for you straight from the mark scheme. It demands a method using 2 recurring decimals that leads to a terminating decimal difference, using correct multiples of x. This simply means you must show the subtraction of 2 of the multiples you just identified, and you can't just pick any 2. You must pick 2 that, when subtracted, will completely cancel out the infinite recurring tail of the decimal. As an example, lining up 10,000x and 10x perfectly eliminates that reoccurring tail, yielding the required terminating difference. By subtracting 10x from 10,000x, you're left with 9,990x on the left side and a clean, non-recurring 723 on the right side. Showing this specific calculation is what unlocks your second mark. Section 4, completing the algebra. These 3 logical stages mirror the exact cognitive progression required to turn that subtracted decimal difference into our target fraction. You've set up your multiples, you've shown the subtraction, and now you must solve for x. If we look really closely at the mark scheme's text for this final point, it says completing the algebra to 241 over 3330 OE. Those letters, OE, stand for or equivalent, meaning correct, unsimplified intermediate steps are completely valid as part of your working. For example, getting to 723 over 9990 is a valid and necessary equivalent step right before you simplify it down by dividing the numerator and denominator by 3 to reach 241 over 3330. Section 5, acceptable answers and traps. The guidance explicitly states 2 vital rules. First, any recurring notation is acceptable throughout your proof. Whether you use dots over the 7 and the 3 or just write it out, you have total freedom with your recurring dot notation. But secondly, beware the massive trap of writing out too few decimal figures during your proof. Here is the crucial point. If you write down less than 6 decimal figures in your working out, you are guaranteed to score 0 on that final accuracy mark. The mark scheme specifically states that proofs with terminating decimals of less than 6 figures score M1, M1, and A0. You will get the first 2 marks for your method, but you will completely lose the final accuracy mark. You absolutely must write out at least 0.723723 to show the recurring nature clearly. Following the exact wording of the examiner's rubric and keeping those 6 figures written out guarantees your path to this triumphant final fraction. By aligning your methodology perfectly with the accepted answers in the mark scheme, setting up correct multiples, showing the subtraction, and simplifying the algebra safely, you leave 0 room for ambiguity. Memorize this structural approach, apply it carefully to the page, and secure those points. But it leaves us with a bigger question.
Now that you know how to decode the examiner's blueprint, which mathematical topic will you reverse engineer next? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep practicing those proofs.